How's it going, everybody? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And today I have Alex Forbes with me and Kris Bertin, all the way from Canada. Thank God for technology. How are you, gentlemen?
Doing well. How are you doing?
Doing okay. Doing okay. Today we are here to talk about this phenomenal Do Not Sleep on These series that I was sent by Oni Press. So a big thank you to Oni Press for putting all this together. There are 3 books in the series, and this is the Hobtown Mystery Stories. There's book 1, The Missing Men, and book 2, The Cursed Hermit, and book 3, which comes out on November. I believe it's next Wednesday when it comes out, the last week of November. And this is The Secret of the Saucer. So, this was described as what I think it's in the back of the book. They're pitching it as Twin Peaks meets Nancy Drew. And even the covers here look like Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew covers that I grew up reading. I was a big fan of those at the school library, and I would always get upset when the Hardy Boys were missing. And I was like, I'm not going to read Nancy Drew. I'm not going to let my friends catch me read Nancy Drew. So when the Hardy Boys were checked out, I would go and read Nancy Drew. And these covers were such a throwback. Even the design of the book is freaking awesome because it looks like those little hardcovers that you would find. So can you all tell me how all of this got started? Because I've heard that this was originally in black and white. Was it a web comic, or how did this get started?
It was an idea that I had. It would have been back in like 2011 or 12.
Oh, okay.
Which before was that.
Yeah,
it's even longer.
Yeah, it might be even before that. But it was when Kris and I were actually living together in a horrible basement apartment. And I was bugging him all the time about this kind of loose idea that I had that was like vaguely informed by the Nancy Drew books, because I always liked the kind of aura of those books. The stories were never very great in them, but I liked them as, the vibes that they had, and to try to build something off that. But I don't know how to write. So I was always bugging Kris about it.
He kept being like, how do you make a mystery? And I'm like, well, you decide what the thing is, and then you work backwards from it. And he's like, but what's the thing? And I'm like, that's up to you. And he's like, well, can you help me? And I was like, all right. We sat around and talked about all the different things that he liked. And I was like, all right, I'll write some, like a document for you. Like, here are the characters, and here are the things that they can do. Or here's the kind of way you can fold in the mystery and then move the other way. And eventually I was like, I'll write it for you. And he was like, oh, thank God. And so after that, we worked really, really closely together, and we kind of taught ourselves comics through the process. And I was writing short fiction, and I got into screenplays later on, but this was kind of, we were teaching ourselves while we were drawing. And so the special thing about these books, I think, is that I would see what he was working on, and then I would say, I really like that. And I would get to take from it, and then just something like a character, someone he drew in the background, some small image, and then run with it and enrich it. And so it was a true collaboration in that way. And I think those were some of the best days of our lives in that horrible apartment we were in.
So you guys had to really get along. How long have you known each other?
We met the first day of grade 1.
Wow. You guys really like hanging out together.
Yeah.
And literally another guy who knew him from, was it kindergarten?
Yeah.
Came over and was like, he can draw, you can draw. You guys should get together. And
like the first thing we ever did together was draw little dudes and make up little stories. So it's kind of it's what we do.
We ruined a lot.
This reminds me of my friends and I, but you guys actually made a success and a livelihood out of it. That is really cool. Okay, so then I have to ask, so Alex had the idea, but didn't know how exactly to make it into a graphic novel. Kris, had you done graphic novels before this series?
No, I mean we love comics, and so we were reading them like crazy, especially around that time, which is just after college, where our student loans were tapering out. We were broke, so we still had the comics we had bought with that money, and we could read through them. But I had never done anything before except for smaller level stuff. But yeah, most of what I was doing at that time was literary short fiction, like stuff in magazines and journals, and you know, super competitive stuff that no one reads, like university journals and like and magazines. We're all fighting for trying to get published in those places. But the whole time I'm like, I'm a comics guy. In my mind, I'm like, as I'm building this other career, I'm like, I want to make a story about ghosts, you know, the whole time.
Okay.
We had tried, you know, kind of like in our early adult years, basically from like late high school through college, we had tried a few times to kind of start something up, but you know, there was a time in our lives where we were kind of constantly outgrowing ourselves. So we would start a project and then kind of mature past it. So then it was just like, it took a couple of years for us both to kind of get into a place with our craft to be confident enough and you know, yeah, to be confident and happy enough with where we were to really kind of stick with the project. And yeah, it was, we really did we had to really stick with it once we got going.
And when you started, 2011. So okay, so how did by the way, Panels with Peace, giving you all some love.
Oh, nice.
Hell yes, love the series and proud to support some local Nova Scotia creators too. My boy's birthday is the same day as the Beerly's release, so can't make it, but hope it's a blast. So excited.
Bring the boy.
I love the original black and white version,
Yeah.
but the colored Oni versions look gorgeous. I'm not usually a fan of artwork being colored, but it really works. Hope there are many more to come. How did the black and white? Were you all self-published? Was it a web comic? Because I mean, this looks like it wasn't meant for web comics, but then again, everything's a web comic these days. I don't know. This just feels like it was meant for paper. How did that come about? How did the black and white? I assume it was the first book, right? The Missing Men, the Case of the Missing Men.
Yeah. So initially, we made like a little proof of concept booklet, and it was in black and white. And a local publisher here saw it. It was Oni Press. They make kind of more like art leaning books. And so our kind of like pulp literary thing was like just on the edges of what they were interested in. And so they published those first two editions, Case of Missing Men and Cursed Hermit. Then COVID happened and we wanted to get published again. We wanted to move to a different publisher and we wanted more exposure because we knew, you know, we got a New York Times review and they liked it. And so some big things were happening for us and we wanted to get the book into more people's hands. And we ended up through Zach Soto going with Oni Press. And Zach had the idea that let's recolor them, but we're not going to just dump color onto it and we're not going to just railroad you guys. So they let us work really, really closely and make very careful choices about what is going to be colored and how it's going to be colored. But the black and white editions still exist. They're still beautiful. We have some kicking around here in the office, but you know, we're proud of the work that we did with them, but I think we needed to reach a wider audience, and going with Oni let us do that.
Yeah, I think Oni Press releasing these made it a definitely broader audience for people like myself. It came on my radar, and we have been working with Oni Press for a while, and when I caught it was one of the covers of Volume 3. I asked, can I do an overview of these? And then they were talking about an interview. After I read this, I was like, I can't wait to talk to you all. Because this is it's hard to describe the type of humor, horror, creepiness to it. I love the back of the book about David Lynch with it's Twin Peaks with Nancy Drew. But I think there's so much more to it than that, because some of these characters in here, man, they just crack me up how odd they are. And it does, yes, it does remind me of the characters, the oddballs in Twin Peaks, like the log lady and all that. But who wrote a majority of the story? Who was in charge of, like,
he wrote all of it. I drew it.
And you drew
we have long, arduous meetings together where we talk about things and sketch things out. But the script itself is written by me. But when we have those discussions, he'll say something, and it'll be really, I'll note it and be like, I have to do something with this, and then it leaves his brain, and he never thinks of it again. And I'll be like, do you see that? Do you see what I did? And he's like, yeah, it's so good. I'm like, that's your idea. Like, really? I'm like, yeah.
He has both. He remembers for the both of us. So.
Okay.
I just
so when it comes to writing and drawing, I just assume both of you are sitting this close together working the whole time. Yeah, will this work? It's like, yeah, that looks good. I just assume that's happening, or you have to go to separate rooms, because it just seems like it seems like it's coming from the mind of one person. That's how whimsical and odd some of these characters are. That it's like, I don't know. I assume you guys have the kind of friendship that you finish each other's sentences. You're into the same kind of humor, obviously the same kind of stories and movies and TV shows.
Mm-hmm.
And we understand the type of character that the humor that's supposed to be in here.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of it is actually based on our shared history, and like we've worked jobs together. We went to school together. We've found ourselves kind of like interested in the same kinds of people, and definitely the same humor. So that, in the book, when they're like a lot of the guys, especially like in Missing Men, a few of those missing men are guys that we know. We know these guys. We each worked. We each put in like well over a decade at like a dive bar, Barely's, where the release where our release party is happening. And that really informed a lot of it, kind of the sense of people and what's funny about them, what's weird about them, what's scary about them. We would talk about this stuff a lot anyway. Even before
about the people you knew.
And what interests us about them, and what, like, we're enamored with these people, and we're lucky enough to kind of be in a place and kind of live a life that put us around a lot of interesting and strange people.
Well, like we said, we've been friends since we were 6 years old. So in the script, I can be like, draw Tony, and he knows.
Oh, see, okay,
like draw Huey doing that thing he does with his hands, and he knows exactly what I'm talking about, and he can do it. I think being from the same world and seeing what's funny in that world is crucial to how this whole thing works. And I don't want to make him cry or anything, but
please do.
I love this person as much as anyone else in the world, or actually more than anyone. I said that wrong.
It's okay. Go ahead.
When we're working on this, I'm trying to make something for him, for my best friend, that he finds moving and enriching and challenging as an artist. So every now and then I'll come to him and be like, I have this idea. We're going to do kaleidoscopes. There's going to be panels that are kaleidoscopes. Okay. And I'm not saying that as a punishment to him, but it's a challenge. It's something that he finds really rewarding. And I think he does the same thing for me, which is the artwork that he creates based on my ideas, speak to them and enrich them in such a way that it's so much better than what I'm writing down. I feel so inspired when I look at his artwork of something that I wrote, that it makes me want to keep going. So we have a 5-book deal. The third one is coming out right now, and there's 2 left left over after that. And every time I look at what he gives me, I'm so excited to work on the next thing. And it just fills me with ideas. And I think the way that we're writing for each other, as corny as it sounds, like the power of our friendship is what makes the voice feel unified, I think.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Would you like to say something about your friend?
Oh yeah, well I just wanted to add that like when I get a script for the next book, and he's always way ahead of me, obviously, it's I have a long arduous, it's like Christmas Day whenever I get a script for the next book. Actually, I'm sitting right now on the script for the 5th book. I'm waiting for like the right moment where I can like really sit down, because it's always a really big deal to me to read what's going to happen to these kids and basically what I have to put them through, what I have to put our characters through. It's always a really, really big moment when you get those. And what's also really fun about that process of, I'm about to draw book 4 and I'm about to read book 5, is that when I'm drawing, I know, books ahead what's going to happen, and these little details and these little events and what happens to different characters, and I can kind of add those details in early that point towards those things. So like one thing that we've always said about these books, I think it's something that like we enjoy when we read or watch stories, is we like to reward the astute reader, so that like if somebody, there's lots of things to notice that in like book 2 and 3 that you will actually find in book 1 that we didn't even really point towards necessarily, but it's there. And then we kind of use that information later on. Like, not like, Kris is using information that I'm drawing kind of in the past, and I'm using information that he's writing in the future, and kind of filling the book with those details. So it's super fun. It's super fun thing to do together.
So that's why it feels like this is the product of one person, because you guys really do work. You're telling him to draw somebody you both knew. You're both in on the joke. It kind of reminds me of things like, like Monty Python's Flying Circus, right? Those guys were writing little skits just to make each other laugh. It wasn't about the general public. It didn't matter if anybody else got it. And I think those are some of the best stories. Like, that's how some of the greatest stories come about, is when people work together just to make themselves chuckle. I need to ask both of you, one at a time, how in the world do you pitch this series to somebody? Like, Alex, how do you pitch this to somebody? What's your elevator pitch?
I mean, the Nancy Drew Twin Peaks thing does suit it.
What if I don't know what Nancy Drew is? I'm like, what's Nancy Drew? What is that?
Yeah, it is. You're right that it, like, we've been doing this forever, and it is hard to really kind of to get it, because it's so specific. Without doing those kind of those lame comps, of because we've also said what if David Lynch was written by Wes Anderson, or directed and written by Wes Anderson, like things.
I compared it to Wes Anderson. Those whimsical type of characters in here, and the shots and the background characters,
and the dialogue and sense of humor and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's always hard to actually get what we're doing, because it is, I think, pretty idiosyncratic, and it's specific to like where we are. It's specific to our friendship. I don't know. Do you have a good one?
I don't know. It's like I don't know, the Scooby-Doo gang versus folk horror on acid. I think we want it. We have surrealist elements. We have pulp elements. And then there's also like a dose of realism. It's not realistic, but realism is a force in the story that occasionally, when you expect characters to come and tell you something about the plot, instead they just talk about the pizza they're having or something like that, and later on in the series, realism is a force that bears down on the story, where we have a story later on where it ends up being like kind of part legal drama, and it's just about one of the characters and who is going to have parental rights to that character. And so while there's all this other stuff about, you know, going underneath the city and seeing insane monsters and the plot where there's good guys and bad guys. There's also this thing of like, who am I and where do I belong? And I think that I'm no longer pitching at this point. But I think that balancing act between all those things is what makes this different than Stranger Things or I don't know. Sometimes we get that stuff thrown at us and we're like, well, it's not like those things, and we don't want it to be. We want it to be its own thing, even though it borrows from Nancy Drew, even though it borrows from Tom Swift.
Yeah, and like we've a nice thing about like these books kind of going out into the world is that we didn't really ever really pitch them. People have generally just kind of found them for the most part. They got handed it by somebody else who said, please read this. It's been a pretty organic process. Like Zach Soto of Oni was a fan of the books and tweeted about it. And Kris saw that and was like, hey, and you know, it's a lot of that kind of thing has happened. Just people finding it and just being like, what is this? You know what I mean? It kind of came, I think for a lot of people, it came out of nowhere because neither of us are good at pushing something. And our first, our first publisher was quite small. So, and that's a really gratifying thing because I love that. I love just finding something out of nowhere to be, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wasn't guided there by media, by like whatever, like, you know, it was just something that I came across, you know what I mean? But however people find it, I'm happy that they found it, but there has been a lot of that, which has been really gratifying.
I will say that this is the type of story, like when talking about this and doing my overview of this, it's, I found the same question in my head. How am I going to pitch this and do it justice? Because I definitely want people to check it out. While it's not for everybody, it's definitely for me and it's for a lot of people. But that, again, David Lynch isn't for everybody and Wes Anderson isn't for everybody. And that's okay. But the people that like that stuff gravitate towards things like that. And I think this is a perfect example of those kind of creators' work. And I like to tell people more about it. Yeah, I am glad that this came on my radar. I had no idea I was going to enjoy them. I read all three of them in one sitting, and then I read.
Wow,
that's a mega dose.
Oh, dude, but this is what I do, though, right? I read for a living and I do videos on them, and I couldn't put them down because it was like they sent it to me about a month ago, and I thought, all right, I'll read a book once a week or something. But I was just hooked. I'm like, this is weird, and I want to know what happens to these kids later. And I was trying to figure out. I can't remember. I went back and read the third book, so I read it twice. But the first book, I can't remember if there was a date there, but it's definitely set in the 90s, like 95, 96, I think.
96 is the first one, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought, man, maybe that's why I really liked it, because it kind of reminds me of that age and just being weird, and everybody is weird at that age. I want to talk about the third book because that's what's coming out next week. And this is definitely a series. You don't need to have read books 1 and 2 to pick up the third one, but I definitely recommend it, especially if you enjoy the third one. And I don't want to spoil what you all did in the third one, but it goes back to what Alex said at the very beginning about a mystery. And I thought that was really cool with how you started, you know, your conversation with Kris. Like, how do you write a mystery? And so was that always the idea for 3, the way that it was laid out? Again, I don't know how much. I haven't read the back of the book. I don't think it's spoiled the way that the story is told.
Yeah. Well, if anyone's watching and they don't want spoilers, spoiler alert.
Thank you for that.
Okay. The story is written in reverse chronological order. So you start at the end of the story, and then every chapter you're learning what happened in the chapter before that, and you're working your way to the beginning. So the first title card is the end, right? Instead of chapter 1, it's the end. And then we see everything that came before it. That was me giving myself a challenge. You know, it's not a completely unique idea. Like we've seen Memento and other fragmented stories, but in the first book, there's a chapter that's like a Rashomon, right? Where we go and we see what are the different points of
Oh,
view
yeah.
of the
I love
people outside of the story seeing this story, you know? So for people who haven't read it, it's, you know, our teenage heroes and their weird mystery. What does it look like to people on the outside? And so that chapter is like, here they are running into the school. Here's someone screaming and dragging the other person by the arm out of the school. What does that mean to me? And then giving those different perspectives. I wanted the audience to be ready for a shift that's a big, big shift. And so I feel like for readers who have read that first one, I was trying to prime you for this, which is the story is strange. We're starting in the middle of a situation or the end of a situation, and we don't know what came before it. So everything you see is a mystery by its very nature because you don't know what came before it. And I think that special idea is what powered the entire thing. And then, so if you can imagine the story is backwards, the very, very special thing that we have is a character who sees the future.
Yes, Pauline, right?
So that means that I can still hang on to the ending for the start, because that's when she first has her vision and we don't know what it is. But for the reader like you who is reading it backwards, it makes perfect sense. Whereas to her, it makes no sense whatsoever. That was something that came to me and I was like, oh my God, if you tell a story like this and you have a psychic, you actually get to retain some mystery and then share it later as a vision that typically would have given everything away.
Yeah, I was confused by it when he first came to me, because I was like, well, wait, do you mean you actually read it like backwards? But it's not, you don't read each chapter, you read forward, but the chapter order is backwards. So just in case people think that like they'd be getting into reading an actual book backwards, that's not the case. But yeah, the story is told backwards. What I really like about it, like, you know, after spending so much time with it, is I realized what it does. Like a lot of mysteries, and this might actually kind of be the difference between people who are into our books and people who aren't, is that with this book, you're kind of given all of the sort of the what's of the story, you know, the what's and the who's, or some of the who's at the beginning. You kind of know what the thing is that's happened. You just don't know why, and you don't know how. And I think that like those two questions are actually the best ones out of all the who, what, where, why, and how. I think why and how are really where the meat is, and it kind of, I think, forces the reader to really hyper focus on those things. That's what you're really concerned with. You know, this character looks like this now. Why? You know, something's really happened to the town. What, you know, why did that happen? How did that happen? You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a really exciting story. I had a really, really fun time with it. And there's lots of you know, sort of the challenge in drawing it was there's just so many details to keep track of. There's like, you know, you really, again, we like to reward the astute reader. You'll notice little things that point towards, you know, what is going to happen or what has happened. Sorry, that's confusing.
I was going to say, the other thing that we wanted to do with the story is that this is Dana's story. So Dana is our Nancy Drew. She is our intrepid, incredibly brilliant, borderline Asperger, like autistic, hyper-focused on mysteries. And she feels like she knows everything. And this is the story where she doesn't know everything. She realizes everything that she takes for granted is wrong. So much of her understanding of the story is like the reader's understanding of it. So we wanted to put her in a situation where she is completely lost. It's the exorcism of Dana and all of her core beliefs and conceits. And so we took that idea and said, how can we make the audience feel like that? And so people who have read it forward and backwards. They read it twice, and they came to understand that, oh, this is actually, you're experiencing what Dana is going through as the reader. And by story's end, or I guess story's beginning, you are unified with her. Like you have come to understand the lessons that she has learned through the narrative device itself.
And now you understand why I had to read book 3 twice. Because in my head, I'm like, this is a mystery type of series. The reveal is always what you're looking forward to. Like the reveal is what's like what the end game is. How in the world are these guys going to do a reveal at the very beginning and then work themselves backwards with like that's going to be boring. But I'm not going to give away what you all did. I thought that was okay. I'm like, okay, the loopholes actually work really well. And I have to ask, Kris, did you write that like in order, or did you really like it backwards? Did you use a lot of Post-it notes? How did you do that in your like when you're writing it down? How'd you keep tabs on what was what, where these characters were?
Well, it still has to operate as a story with a beginning, middle, and end. And so what I had to do is, even though it's backwards, the story still operates with an introduction and rising action, and then a climax and a denouement. And so it still has to feel like those things, even though chronologically it's backwards. So I felt like what I did was, here are the big moments. And so the big moments that I want that are going to take place in like chapter 3, chapter 4, instead of chapter 12 or something like that, I had the idea that these are the central images that mean something to me that I think will carry the story forward. But I did write it backwards. I did start at the end, and here are the images that what I want to do is give the reader, here's all the characters, and it's all wrong. Their hair is different colors.
Yeah, well,
weird clothes.
There's new characters that came in.
Characters, and we're like, who are they? To me, I'm writing for myself and I'm writing for him. Those are the things that when I see it in a story, it can be nagging and frustrating, but you're like, by God, I want to find out what happens. And so that's the kind of thing I was trying to make.
Well, it succeeded with me. Like I said, with in the first 2 books that are told in a linear way. I didn't need a little genius move that you added in the 3rd book. That was cool. Now, the problem with that, though, is that you set the bar high. That means whatever you do in the 4th book, just saying, whether it's like a big giant pull-out poster, the entire book, whatever crazy things you guys want to do, you've set the bar high with the 3rd book. It was excellent. I really, really enjoyed it. Now, the 3rd book has never been released, right? It was only released in color through Oni Press.
Yeah.
So this is a big deal. This is the first time the book has been released everywhere. Yeah,
and it's like it's a big deal for Oni with us anyway, because the other 2 books had already been out there. They'd already been, they've already had press and stuff like that. So in a way, for Oni, this is their release. Like this is sort of their actual first real release with us, where it's like the first time the book is coming out. So it's exciting.
Again, I got to give you guys props. I wanted to share this message right here. As someone who also liked the vibes of Nancy Drew, but couldn't quite click with its story, I have a strong feeling I'll enjoy what you 2 have made. Also, power of friendship for the win. That's how you guys see. That's how you sell books. This is an excellent question from John. What would you say the reading age range for these books is? I have a 16 and a 13-year-old. Before you guys say anything, and I wouldn't have any issues with either one of them reading them. What about you 2? What would you say?
I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they are not allowed to read it.
Okay.
My oldest one has looked through it, and he's like, Hobtown is scary, and he knows that it's scary. So he'll be like, I saw a dead person, and I'm like, you're not allowed to read that. Put that away. But from comic conventions and stuff like that we've done with the public, we've had kids that are 12, 13 that come up to us and say, we love these books. And
that's awesome.
I can't wait to read more. And so I think of myself when I was 12 or 13, I would have been able to read these books.
Absolutely.
But your mileage may vary depending on how emotionally mature you are. We have a rule that no one says the F word. They can say shit because that's on TV. And there's still death. There is some level of gore.
Yeah.
We don't want a dead person to not be a big deal. is a big deal. And I think it's funny, people call it the Disneyfication, but Disney actually was the one who would be like, yeah, the Mufasa's going to die. Spoiler. I don't know. It's important for us, if we are sharing this with kids, that there's, in this, to be corny again, there's our values are on display here. It's about things that we cherish that mean something to us. And so the kids and how they treat each other and how the world treats them. I think if you're a 13-year-old, it might help you understand the world in some way.
Yeah. But like, it's definitely not orientated towards any age, really. I think any age, we've had people of every age group that have read it and really enjoyed it, which is nice. It's harder to like zero in on a demographic, but it does seem to be readable by anyone. But yeah, we've never really been interested in, a lot of sort of like stuff of like a Riverdale kind of like very sexy teen thing. We don't really truck in that. That's not really our kids. And yeah, I think the kids are like actually pretty good role models for people as well, for young people, because they're dealing with things quite honestly. And the crazy stuff that's happening in the town really does affect them, and they really do care. Yeah, they're good kids. We like our kids.
I wanted to go back to this message because I had a question for you both. Funny hearing that you drew inspiration from some interesting people you've met at work. When you take those personalities and amplify certain aspects, it's great. Life always gives the best material. Have you all shared these books and stories with some of these people that their characters are based on, and they're like, yo, what the hell's wrong with you?
Honestly, we worked at a dive bar for I worked there for 11 years. You were there probably around the same amount of time. Those people, the ones that we drew, are happy to see it.
That's awesome.
I think generally they like us. They liked us as young boys who were, they're helping them drink their beers. A lot of them are really happy to see it. I've never heard anyone complain, and I think we would never put someone in there to mock them. It's only,
of course,
some of the people there's a guy in there who we don't even mention him. He's the guy who is a homeless man, borderline homeless guy. Terry, he doesn't exist, but we're, we wouldn't cast someone in that role because he's so horrible, but we'll still have background people that they'll come up to us and be like, that's me. And you're like, that is you.
Yeah. I'm excited for this next book because there's a few people that we know who I don't know if they know that they're in it, and it's like so obviously them. I hope they're cool with it. I don't know. It's a fun kind of love letter to, our kind of shared life that we have. We really do love these people and like kind of what they've added to our lives by just their very being, Well,
like one of my favorite is Dylan, which is kind of like a play on the kind of manservant character from Johnny Quest.
Okay. I didn't even catch that. Okay.
So Sam Finch is his like dad's man who works for him here. This is based on our very good friend Dylan, he's the same name, who is a Sri Lankan line cook, and he's he just has such a noble face and these like powerful poses, and he's such a good person that we were like, God, we want him. It has to be him. And we were talking, and then Alex just drew him. He's like, we'll just put him in it.
Yeah, and like it's funny when you do talk to these people, like, he's a Sri Lankan line cook. I don't think he's really ever read very many comics. So I'm like telling him, like, you're in these books and they're real books. They're coming out. And he's just like smiling and being like, cool. Like, whatever, do what you're going to do. And he was really happy to see that.
Who are you two most like in the stories? Are you one of the kids?
You know,
Yeah, who do you see yourself as?
I think if you actually look at Sam Finch, it looks like, and Alex didn't do this on purpose, it looks like you morphed you and me into kind of a guy. It really looks
like, Sam Finch is so plain, though.
We're plenty plain.
Yeah, we're pretty plain. Yeah, he is, and sort of character-wise, he is kind of an amalgamation of us as well. You know, he kind of has like my especially at that age, my awkwardness with girls. He has that. Like he really has a very hard time with that. And like Kris writing that, Kris was very familiar with the way that I was then. And then like kind of drawing him, I'm really kind of thinking of myself at that time where he kind of stiffens up and is, you know, kind of gets a blank face in some instances where he's you'll see it, like there's a really great moment with him and Dana in book 3. Yeah, it's not really a spoiler. It's just that's pretty good. But yeah, I think he has Kris's I don't know what you call it, intensity, maybe.
I thought you were gonna say joie de vivre.
Okay. J. Michael just joined, just read the series description. Does this have Hardy Boys influence?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's its own thing, but when we talked about using pulp characters and pulp world and pulp design, we ended up having a Nancy Drew kind of character and a Tom Swift character, and the Hardy Boys are our absolute favorite character analogs in the story, which is these two brothers.
Yeah, I kind of figured that's who they were supposed to be.
Yeah, they're kind of like Hardy Boys, but the Hardy Boys don't actually, in a lot of the early media, have no personality. It's like this one has black hair, this one brown, and that's really the like key differences between them. So we thought, well, we want them to be very different people, and so even though they're both two jocks who wear the same football jackets, they could not be more different, right? It's like class clown, psycho, heart of gold, adventurer, like stuntman, and then someone who is like a hard-boiled detective, 11th grader, you know, someone who is like the straight man who is like who is intensely invested in doing the right thing no matter what. And having those chaotic forces come together is really fun. And Denny is both of our favorite character.
Yeah.
I love Denny. Feels alive to me in a way that I doesn't feel like I'm writing him. When I'm reading the things that he says, I just think, God, I love you. I love you.
Yeah. I really, and it's like similarly with drawing him, because when you're cartooning, people don't often think of it this way. And it took me a while to kind of realize that a part of the reason I really like cartooning is that it is basically you're acting through drawing. And I've always really admired good actors, but I could never do it well myself. So it's kind of a way of exploring that and getting to act out Denny through drawing. It's really like, it's the most free character. I can make him do anything and it sells because he's such a vibrant character.
Mm-hmm.
Such an expressive character. Yeah, he's the best.
Yeah, he can cry and it makes you feel emotional, or he can fart like a cartoon character and rise up off the panel with a cloud. And I buy both of them.
Yeah.
I'm a Pauline guy. I really like her character.
Yeah, she's so sweet.
Obviously, especially because of book 2, where she really shines. And I thought what you guys did in book 2 was really interesting too, separating the characters, because that always reminds me of TV shows, right? Like going back to like Stranger Things, like season 2, the characters are separated, and you're like, oh, when are they gonna get back together? And I thought I would have that same kind of feeling in the book, but I didn't. I really was like just involved in the mystery and without trying to word this without spoiling anything. Whether things are real or not, whether supernatural things are actually happening, or is it a Scooby-Doo, if it wasn't for you kids, I would have gotten away with it too, you know, like one of those endings. So yeah, I dug it. I dug book 2. I like how each one of these are different, and I cannot wait for the 4th book. No rush at all, but you said you were done writing it, and now it's up to Alex to draw it. So the pressure's on Alex. That's what I'm hearing.
So that one, I guess if you were to, it's high concept, that's the one where it's like Journey to the Center of the Earth and I don't know, a courtroom drama, and those two things coming together, as stupid as that sounds, or you know, it's kind of like I don't know, Lord of the Rings, where we have moved away and the two groups of characters are circling one another, and the characters that are above ground are facing really concrete, terrifying real life forces, and the characters that are below the earth are facing kind of more abstract, spiritual, existential, but it's all existential.
Oh, I can't wait for it.
It's called A Journey into the Abyss.
The 4th book. And you have five planned, correct?
That's right.
Are you planning future collaborations after the 5th Hobtown book? Or are the big two going to throw money at you both, as they smartly should?
What's the big two? I don't know.
It's the comic.
Marvel and DC.
Yeah. Jeez, I can't even imagine. Yeah, sorry, I've been out of that world for so long.
You're so Canadian humble. You're like, I don't even know what
big.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, what could work? I could see Gotham Academy. I love those kids. Strange Academy. Like, you already got that kind of vibe going for this. Like,
oh my man, I haven't even thought of that. It'd be so fun.
They should let us do X-Men. If you're listening, we'll do it.
How about New Mutants?
Oh, that'd be great. I'd love that.
It would be really fun for us because, like, that stuff used to be all we talked about. Like, we would talk.
We could have been talking about X-Men the whole time.
Sorry, talking about all this other crap.
All right, do over. Anyway, yeah, it'd be really fun to revisit that stuff. Like, you know, especially as, you know, middle-aged men.
Yes.
So I would be interested to see what your pitch would be for something like New Mutants and X-Men. Of course, I was just being very selfish because of your work here with kids. I was like, oh, I'd like to see like them handle like a young team of characters. How far ahead do you have the series planned?
We have book 5. He just wrote.
I just finished the 5th book, which is we have a contract for 5 books, so that was finishing up my portion of it, and now it is up to this young man to do the art. So he's working on 4 right now, and 5 is done from a story standpoint. But of course, a lot more still happens because it's collaborative. So we still have lots to discuss and to do. We do layout meetings together too, where I'm like, hey, to me, this is definitively a 6-panel page, and he'll be like, no, this is a 5-panel page.
Splash page.
I do love those from time to time because I don't ever expect them. I'm like, oh, that's an interesting choice for a splash page, but I love the framing up.
Yeah, a lot of those are, for me, it's about timing. It's about like, I want to be here. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like how, it's just kind of controlling time in the comics. But yeah, in terms of plans, so like we're talking about this stuff all the time, and it's getting way ahead of ourselves. But if the series is finished and there is seems to be a demand for it in the future, we do talk about what happens to these kids, after this story, and what happens to Hobtown, later on. So who knows, if there's enough of a demand for it and people are really interested, we could do this stuff. We could keep going.
But as for our collaboration past this, I definitely want to work with Alex for the rest of my life. I have to leave him alone at some point, and let him work on his own stuff, because I have my own separate career as well. And so
but Kris, you couldn't write a script saying draw Tom, because your artist would be like, who the hell is Tom? And you're like, dang it, Alex.
Tom would be a good guy to draw.
Yeah, he would. Yeah. I mean, we're thinking of the same Tom right now. We definitely are. Yeah, like I do have a bit of an creative itch in me to, you know, like there is something to writing and drawing your own book. It kind of, there's a purity to it, right? It's the only visual form of storytelling that like one person can do. And it is sort of like, you know, I guess sort of like a creative bucket list for me to finally try to do that on my own. Writing is, you know, I've always said it. We argue about, you know, each other a lot. I think like Kris's writing is far harder to come by than a person that can draw pictures. It's way harder to teach, I think, how to write. I know it's been very hard for me to learn, but I have.
Then why is my drawing so bad? Like,
your drawing is great. Kris's drawings are in the backs of these books, so and they're good cartoons. So that is something that I do want to do, and I'm really lucky that I do have this guy to, you know, help me along the way, and I'm always kind of, you know, asking him questions about story writing. He's like explained the same thing to me many times, and it's slowly sinking in. I do think I kind of understand it now.
I know we got to start wrapping up because you got to be somewhere, and I wanted to ask or answer. I got this one. The overview will probably come out this Sunday because the book is. Sorry, Rahul's asking when the overview for Volume 3 is coming out. I think I'll probably release it this Sunday because the book comes out on the 26th, and it'll be an overview of all 3 books because I really want people to check them all out.
Awesome.
And we will take one more question with Patrick. I think he has. Yeah, I do want to know your honest answers, though. If the big 2 publishers were to put you in charge of writing and drawing, both of you working together on the same book, which comic book character would they like to draw? One from DC and one from Marvel. What do you guys think? You said X-Men. Is that what both of you think?
I love the X-Men. I love the 5 X-Men. It's my, you know, I guess kind of like Hobtown. I like things that don't go together. So I love the original 5. I love their matching costumes. I love the idea, the Stan and Jack, those 5 guys and what they look like, and the fact that they can't destroy the universe. They're kind of like a basketball team that needs like a couple more. You know, it's like
you guys could totally do a Wes Anderson.
Oh, I would love to make that. But I also love the freak characters. I love like Maggot and Beak and that kind of stuff. And I love that's the other stuff I love is that those guys are too pretty, you know.
Yeah, they're good looking. They're good looking.
But
Beak is not.
But I actually think that's something you could explore, you know. And it has been explored before. But those 5 guys just happen to be quite beautiful. Whereas the ones getting hunted down with torches and pitchforks, you know, they're people who have whatever, their face liquefies or whatever.
Yeah, I feel similarly. I kind of like the characters that are a bit more down to earth. They're not these kinds of, you know, these gods like the Justice League or something. Mm-hmm. I've always liked the characters that are a bit more grounded, and especially characters that tend to be overshadowed by other characters. I like those guys, you know, kind of the underdog characters.
Okay, answer the DC question.
Oh, the DC one. Oh, geez. I've always been partial for some reason to Plastic Man. I like Plastic Man. I always thought he was kind of a cool idea. You know, the villain turned good, but he's still kind of a bit morally ambiguous. And always kind of doing gross stuff. He in terms of like an artist, I've always thought that he's like a pretty fun idea. Just like the idea of something that can turn into anything, but he always has to remain those same colors for some reason. That's always really amazed me. It's kind of cool.
He has design limitations.
Yeah.
It's very funny. That's a good answer. I'll write that for you.
I hope you enjoy them, John. And on that note, I just want to thank both you, Kris, Alex, for joining me today, talking to us about your wonderful series. Books 1 and 2 are available already from Oni Press, and book 3 will be out next Wednesday. My overview will be out sometime this Sunday, so check it out on the channel to talk about all 3 of these books. They have 5 of them, and this is, of course, backwards. They have eventually 5 of these books will be.
Look how they look on your shelf. They'll look really nice on your shelf.
Yeah, this is I really love the design of what they did here. They make them look like those little library books, which is exactly.
That's not me, by the way. That's the design team at Oni. They're amazing. They did that stuff. It's really great.
Thank you, gentlemen. Seriously, for
thank you, Omar.
Yeah, it was a blast. I had a good time talking to both of you, and I could not wait to talk to you after. I needed to find out who the nuts behind the stories in here were. So I'm glad that you guys lived up to my expectations. Thank you both. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a wonderful day.
All right. Yeah. Take care, everybody.